Welcome back to the Economic Sutra. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we're kind of on this journey to explore the economic wisdom that's kind of hidden in these ancient Indian texts.
It's like we're uncovering hidden treasure, you know?
It really is.
And you'd be surprised how relevant these ancient ideas are to our lives even today.
Yeah, and speaking of uncovering hidden treasure, I think it's worth taking a moment to recognize Audiocast Lab India.
Absolutely.
They're the ones who are really the driving force behind this show.
Yes. Using the power of audio, to bring these fascinating insights to life.
And they really do a fantastic job of that.
They do.
So if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast,
yes,
these are the folks to reach out to.
They are the experts.
They're the experts, and they can help you find your voice and share your story with the world.
Exactly.
But okay, enough about podcasting. Let's get back to ancient India.
Back to ancient India.
We are on episode 3.
Episode 3.
And today we're diving into the concepts of charity and public goods.
Think about it. Charity and public goods. Aren't those topics we're still grappling with today?
Yeah, constantly, right? Absolutely.
All the time.
So let's start with charity.
Okay.
It wasn't just about giving money in ancient India, was it?
No, not at all. It was very deeply intertwined with the concept of dharma.
Okay.
Which encompasses duty, ethics, and right action.
Right.
So charity was seen as a moral obligation, a way to uphold your dharma and maintain balance in society.
So it was more about social responsibility than just individual generosity.
Exactly. They believed that inequality was a natural part of life.
Right.
And charity was a way to mitigate its effects. It was about ensuring that everyone had access to basic necessities and opportunities.
Okay, so that makes sense. Now, what about the concept of merit goods?
Yeah.
I've heard that mentioned in relation to ancient Indian thought.
Merit goods, think of them as things that benefit society as a whole. Education, healthcare, food security. These were considered essential for individual and collective well-being, and providing them was seen as a key aspect of charity.
Okay, so charity was about more than just giving handouts. It was about creating a more equitable and just society.
Precisely. And that brings us to the idea of public goods.
Okay.
These were large-scale projects and services intended to benefit everyone.
Okay, so like what kinds of things?
So think about things like irrigation systems to ensure a steady supply of water for agriculture.
Okay.
Or well-maintained trade routes to facilitate commerce and connect different regions. Even universities like Nalanda and Takshashila were considered public goods centers of learning open to all who sought knowledge.
It sounds like they were really investing in the long-term prosperity of their society.
They were.
Like they had a really sophisticated understanding of how public goods could benefit everyone.
Yes, they did. And one of the most prominent thinkers on this topic was Kautilya.
Okay.
The author of the Arthashastra, a treatise on statecraft and economics. He believed that strong public infrastructure and services were crucial for a thriving economy and a stable society.
So it wasn't just about individual charity then.
Right.
It was about the government playing a role in creating a more equitable and prosperous society.
Exactly. Kautilya saw public goods as a shared responsibility, a way to ensure that everyone had the opportunity to flourish.
This is all so insightful.
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners are eager to delve deeper.
Absolutely.
And for those who want to explore these concepts further, we have a curated list of books on ancient Indian economics and philosophy.
Yes.
You can find the link in the show notes.
A wealth of knowledge that can enrich our understanding of these timeless principles.
Okay, but let's not get lost in the books just yet.
Right.
We've talked about charity and public goods as kind of separate concepts.
Yeah.
But were they really that distinct in ancient Indian thought?
That's a great question. And, it leads us to a fascinating point. The idea of wealth wasn't just about material possessions.
Okay.
It was also about moral capital, the good deeds you accumulated through acts of charity and social responsibility.
So it wasn't just about how much money you had,
Right.
but how you used it.
Exactly. It was about balancing individual prosperity with a sense of obligation to the larger community.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It really challenges our modern-day obsession with individual wealth accumulation.
It does.
So tell me, how did this balance actually play out in practice?
Well, they had this powerful concept called tyaga,
Okay.
which means sacrifice or renunciation.
Right.
It emphasized the importance of detaching from material possessions and using wealth for the greater good.
Huh?
And it wasn't just a philosophical ideal, it was reflected in the stories and legends of ancient India.
Okay, give me an example. I love a good story.
Okay, well, take King Harishchandra from the Mahabharata.
Okay.
He's famous for his unwavering commitment to truth and justice.
Uh-huh.
And to uphold his dharma, he literally gave away his entire kingdom, his
Right.
wealth, his family, everything.
Wow, that's quite a commitment to the greater good.
It is.
But was everyone expected to be as extreme as King Harishchandra?
Well,
Surely there was a more practical, everyday application of Tyaga.
of course, it wasn't always about grand gestures. Even small acts of kindness, like providing food for the hungry or donating to community projects, were considered important expressions of tyaga. It was about recognizing that wealth came with a responsibility to use it wisely and compassionately. And that's where the brilliance of Kautilya comes in, you know?
Okay, so tell me more about Kautilya and his perspective on all of this.
Well, he was a pragmatist, you see.
Okay.
And while he recognized the importance of voluntary charity,
Mm-hmm.
he also understood that relying solely on individual goodwill could be unpredictable.
Yeah, that makes sense. So he believes that the government had a role to play in ensuring social welfare.
Absolutely. He advocated for a system of taxation that was fair and equitable. You know, a system where the wealthy contributed more to support the needs of the less fortunate.
That sounds a lot like our modern concept of progressive taxation.
It does, doesn't it? Kautilya was centuries ahead of his time in many ways. He also believed that the government should invest in public works projects, things like irrigation canals, roads, and granaries, to stimulate the economy and create opportunities for everyone.
It seems like he had a very holistic view of economics,
He did.
understanding the interconnectedness of individual well-being and societal prosperity.
He did indeed. He understood that a thriving economy depended on a healthy and educated population. He even advocated for free healthcare for the poor and emphasized the importance of education for all.
That's remarkable. It challenges the notion that ancient societies were solely focused on hierarchy and rigid social structures.
It does. Ancient India was a complex and nuanced society.
Right.
And these texts reveal a deep concern for social justice and the well-being of all members of the community.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how these ancient ideas connect to our contemporary debates about the role of government, wealth inequality, and social responsibility.
It really is. And it highlights the enduring relevance of these ancient texts. They offer us a different lens through which to view our own challenges and consider alternative approaches to creating a more just and equitable world.
Okay, so we've explored the concepts of charity, public goods, and the idea of wealth as both material and moral capital.
Yes.
But how did these ideas actually manifest in ancient Indian society? Were they just lofty ideals, or did they have a tangible impact on people's lives?
That's an important question, and the answer lies in the rich tapestry of historical evidence we have from that era.
Okay.
Archaeological findings, inscriptions, and accounts from travelers all point to a society that took these principles seriously.
Okay, so give me some specifics. What kind of evidence are we talking about?
Well, for instance, we have evidence of extensive irrigation systems built by ancient Indian rulers.
Wow.
These systems transformed arid lands into fertile farmlands, boosting agricultural productivity and improving the livelihoods of countless farmers.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Any other examples?
Yes, there are numerous inscriptions detailing the establishment of hospitals and charitable institutions often funded by wealthy merchants and kings. These institutions provided medical care, food, and shelter to the poor and the sick.
It sounds like they were really putting their money where their mouth was, so to speak. It
Exactly.
wasn't just talk. They were actually creating systems to support the less fortunate.
Exactly. And let's not forget the grand universities like Nalanda and Takshashila, which attracted students from all over Asia.
Right.
These institutions were centers of intellectual and cultural exchange, fostering innovation and scholarship.
It's incredible to think about the scale of these endeavors
It is.
and the impact they must have had on society.
It underscores the fact that these weren't just abstract philosophical concepts. They were woven into the fabric of everyday life, shaping the economic and social landscape of ancient India.
As we're discussing all of this, I can't help but think about the relevance of these ideas to our own world today.
I agree. We're facing many of the same challenges that ancient societies grappled with.
Right.
Poverty, inequality, the need for sustainable development. And perhaps their wisdom can offer us some guidance as we navigate these complex issues.
This is a great point to remind our listeners that if they're interested in diving deeper into these topics, we've compiled a list of fascinating books on ancient Indian economics and philosophy. You can find the link in the show notes.
Yes, these books provide a wealth of information and can help you explore these ideas in greater depth.
Now, returning to our discussion, I'm curious to know more about how these ancient principles might inform our approach to modern challenges.
Okay.
For example, how can we apply the concept of tyaga in a world that often seems driven by self-interest and materialism?
That's a profound question, and it's one that I think many people are wrestling with today.
Yeah.
The concept of tyaga reminds us that true wealth isn't just about accumulating possessions, but about using our resources to make a positive impact on the world around us.
So it's about shifting our focus from me to we.
Exactly.
From individual gain to collective well-being.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
Right.
And that even small acts of generosity and kindness can ripple outwards, creating a more compassionate and just society.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's empowering, really.
Yes.
It suggests that we all have the power to make a difference regardless of our circumstances.
Absolutely. And perhaps that's one of the most enduring lessons we can learn from ancient India, that the pursuit of individual wealth should always be balanced with a sense of social responsibility and a commitment to the greater good.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
It has.
And I'm sure our listeners are eager to learn more. But before we wrap up, I want to touch upon something we mentioned earlier, the role of the government in promoting social welfare.
Yes. It's a crucial aspect of this discussion. Ancient Indian thinkers recognized that the government had a responsibility to create conditions that allowed everyone to flourish.
And as we mentioned before, Kautilya was a strong advocate for this.
He was. He believed that the government should play an active role in promoting economic growth, ensuring social justice, and providing essential services to its citizens.
So it wasn't just about charity from the wealthy.
Right.
It was about creating a system that supported everyone.
Exactly. Kautilya understood that a strong and prosperous society depended on the well-being of all its members, not just a privileged few.
This resonates with many contemporary discussions about the role of government in addressing issues like poverty, inequality, and access to health care.
It does. And while the specifics of their solutions might differ from ours, the underlying principles of social responsibility and shared prosperity remain remarkably relevant.
It's fascinating to see how these ancient ideas can inform our understanding of modern challenges and perhaps even inspire us to find new and innovative solutions.
It is, and as we continue to explore the wisdom of ancient India, I believe we'll uncover even more valuable insights that can help us create a more just and equitable world for everyone. You know, it's truly remarkable how these ancient texts offer such a rich and nuanced perspective on economics and society.
I know, I couldn't agree more. It's like we've been given this glimpse into a different way of thinking,
Yeah.
a way that values compassion and social responsibility alongside economic prosperity.
And what's particularly striking is how these ideas resonate with our own contemporary struggles.
Yeah,
You know, we're living in a time of unprecedented economic growth.
we are.
Yet inequality is widening and many people are feeling left behind.
Absolutely. It's like we've lost sight of that balance between individual ambition and collective well-being
Yeah,
that ancient Indian thinkers emphasized so strongly.
yes. It's as if we've become disconnected from the understanding that a truly prosperous society is one where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, not just a select few.
Right. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we bring these ancient principles into our modern world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I believe it starts with awareness.
Okay.
By recognizing the limitations of our current economic model and rediscovering the wisdom of the past, we can begin to envision a different path. A path that leads to a more just and equitable future.
I think you're right. It's about shifting our mindset,
Yeah.
recognizing that true wealth encompasses more than just material possessions.
Yes.
It's about cultivating compassion, generosity, and a sense of shared responsibility for the well-being of our communities and our planet.
Precisely. And this isn't just about grand gestures or radical systemic change.
Right.
It's about the choices we make every day.
Okay.
How we spend our money, how we treat others, how we contribute to our communities. All of these actions, no matter how small, can make a difference.
It's about remembering that interconnectedness
Yes.
that ancient Indian thinkers emphasize so strongly.
Exactly.
Recognizing that our actions have ripple effects impacting not just ourselves, but those around us and even future generations.
Absolutely. And I believe that By embracing these principles, we can create a world that is not only more prosperous, but also more just compassionate and sustainable.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you for this incredibly enlightening conversation.
My pleasure.
It's been a true journey of discovery, exploring the depths of ancient Indian wisdom and its relevance to our lives today.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always inspiring to engage in these conversations and to see how these timeless ideas can spark new ways of thinking and being.
And speaking of sparking new ideas, let's not forget to give a shout out to the amazing team at Audiocast Lab India.
Yes.
They're the masterminds behind this show, transforming these complex concepts into engaging audio experiences.
Yes, they are true wizards of sound. If you've ever dreamed of launching your own podcast, they can help you bring that vision to life.
Absolutely. You can find their information in the show notes. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this exploration of ancient Indian economic thought. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and perhaps even a renewed sense of hope for the future.
We encourage you to continue exploring these ideas on your own. Check out the books we've recommended in the show notes for a deeper dive into this fascinating subject.
And be sure to tune in next time for our 4th episode, Kautilya's Vision, Public Finance and Governance, where we'll delve into the intricacies of statecraft and economic policy in ancient India.
Until then, keep those minds curious and those hearts open. Namaste, namaste.